stay like this, forever following you. Just don't get too far, and I'll be right where you are. You're a dream that I could finally see. I just want us to always be, to always be.
Good morning and welcome to episode 10 of SEN Stream. We talk to Dr. Sanjoy Deb about practitioner skills. We round up the modules leading into week 10. We take a look at a new paper published in Science. We have an exclusive regarding lunchtimes. We answer questions on the chat. We get some feedback from the part-time Year 2 students. Stay tuned to find out more. Guys, welcome to episode 10 of the SEN Stream. Now, we're going to start with Dr. Sanjoy Deb. We've got him in the studio. He's waiting with bated breath to answer your questions with regards to the second assessment that you've got for practitioner skills for sports nutritionists. So after that, we'll lead into the modules. We've got some updates from all the module leaders this time. We'll then have a look at a tweet of the week, which will lead us onto that science publication, which I think you will all be interested in looking at. Then we'll have a little bit of an exclusive regarding lunchtimes. Just bear in mind as well, we'll have the chat open in the background the whole time that we're doing this session. So if you've got any questions, please don't be afraid to ask them throughout. Once we get the chat open, then we'll start answering them as we go by and go through the session. So if you've got anything to ask it now or throughout the session. We'll try and pick it up as we get to that point. And then at the end of the session today, I did an interview with Francesca, who is our part-time Year 2 course rep. And she's taken the opportunity to just give a little bit of feedback from the part-time Year 2 students as to how things are going. So stay tuned for that at the end of the session, and we'll go from there. But just give us a minute or so where we get set up. I get Sanjoy in the room, and then we'll jump straight into looking at the second assessment that you've got on practitioner skills for sports nutritionists. So bear with us, and we'll be back in a second. Guys, Dr. Sanjoy Deb, welcome to SEN Stream.
Hello.
How are we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excitable as always. Now, as you guys know, we on SEN Stream, we try and get the module leaders in to talk about the assessments and how you guys can try and do well on your assessments. So I've got the chat open. So if you've got questions specifically for Sanjoy while he's sat here in the studio, then we will go through those as well. Now, I know that Sanjoy has got a few slides to go through with you with regards to the assessment, but I'm just going to open the question with Sanjoy now. So, Sanjoy, tell us a little bit about this assessment before we move on.
All right. Okay. So this assessment, it builds on what you've just recently done, the portfolio, and it gives you a chance to essentially be a sports nutritionist in practice. We've spoke about throughout the module communication, building rapport, what are doing a needs analysis, and what are the key information that you need to be able to work with a client. So essentially, this assessment allows you to bring all of that together by actually performing your own consultation, which we will record. You'll record, and you'll get evaluated on your ability to interact with the client, communicate with them, build that rapport, and tease out the key information that you think is important to be able to be a sports nutritionist and give them sound advice. While you won't be giving them that, I won't be assessing you on the advice that you give them. And as I said during the modules, you can go ahead and do that after the fact It's more the process and how you communicate is what I'm interested in here. So it gives you a good opportunity to kind of learn and about that consultation process, and have someone watch you and sort of critique you during the assessment. Because when you go out in the real world, it's very rare that you'll have someone there sitting next to you who'll be able to like give you some pointers as you go along, because it's a very one-to-one personal process. So it's a good learning opportunity, not just for the module, but wider as well, I'd say.
Good stuff. So what we tend to do is we just have a bit of a chat about how the students on your module can do well in this assessment. Now, I believe you've got some slides that you want to share with them. So I'll open it up. How can the students do well on this assessment? And if you need to show any stuff, just let me know. We'll put it up on the background.
Okay, cool. So what I've done, I've put together some slides, like I did for the last assessment, outlining the 4 key elements of the rubric. Okay.
Do you want me to pop these up?
Yeah, pop them up, please.
Let's put them up.
So we'll start off with this first one. So example consultation form. So there's three aspects to this assessment. The first step is to design your own consultation forms. It's worth 25% of the mark. And what the rubric states is you need at least three templates that span the breadth of scenarios and highlight the awareness of socio-demographic and economic and other features that could influence your consultation. Okay, so you need to identify what information is important for you before you go into a consultation that you need to know from a client, and how you would get that information, and how you'd structure the forms, and what the purpose of each form is. It says at least 3. You can have more than 3 if you wish. There are on Blackboard, there are some examples of types of forms you can have, but you're not limited to that, and it doesn't mean that those are the only forms that you have to do. All those forms, they're just examples. Just something to bear in mind, not to have too many forms, because you've got to think about the client and think, are they going to want to fill in 10 forms before they come see you for a consultation? So
you think there's a degree of quality over quantity in that regard?
Yeah. So you need, so it's the quality is important, and also being able to rationalize the information that you think is important. And I guess you might have a whole host of information that you think you really need before a consultation, but rank them, what's most important, and take those most important things that you're going to get, I guess, most bang for your buck in terms of the information that you need to be able to deliver an effective initial consultation. Because the rest of the information you can get from the consultation during conversations. So the mark from this aspect of it, a lot to do with, to get the top end marks, is how you're going to rationalize the decisions on what you're going to include, I'd say.
What are some of the common mistakes for this particular section, do you think? What things to try and avoid?
I think the biggest mistake someone could make, because it says at least 3 forms, that you go ahead and you include a whole host of information, essentially try and do a consultation with forms rather than in conversation. So not having too much. For example, if you do something like a 3-day food diary, hey, that's fine. You can do that. I'm not saying right now that's something you could include. That's up to you. But you have to identify what are the limitations of doing this 3-day food diary, and then what are the pros as well, and then weigh it up in that sense. Because you don't want to repeat any information within the consultation, because wasting your time and the client's time doing it. So I guess that's the main thing from this. I can imagine people doing.
From a pragmatic perspective as well, like if you're going to be running a consultation, then you're literally, time is money. If you're stumbling because you're repeating lots of information in the forms that you've got copious amounts of forms that you want your participant to think. Aside from this assessment, just in life in general, you want to try and be as efficient as you possibly can in those consultations. And again, that's what Sanjoy's trying to get at. We want good quality forms that you would help facilitate your consultation moving forward. So maybe keep that in the back of your mind as you're writing this particular assessment.
Yeah.
Should we move it on?
Yeah, move it on. Yeah,
Move
next
it on.
slide. So the second part of this assessment is you're going to review a client consultation. I haven't put the videos up yet. The videos will be on later today, and I'll send a Blackboard announcement out to confirm. Essentially, what this part of the assignment is, I want you to picture what you feel an ideal consultation will look like, based on the things that we've covered in the module and your extra reading that you might do around looking at consultations, identify and define that, and then compare the consultation that you see on the video to that ideal consultation. Pick out the things that you think, okay, that was done well, and why it was done well and why it's important, and pick out the things that maybe weren't done as well, and critique it and think, okay, they did this, and this, and it doesn't really fit to, and it really missed the gaps of what you're kind of trying to achieve from the overall consultation. And it's not just sort of the content of the consultation, but also you want to look at the surroundings. You want to have a look at how they're communicating. Are they actually listening to the client rather than just they've got a list of questions and they want to get through them? So things like that are the things that you want to kind of pick up on and see if this example consultation really does them. So once you've pulled that together and looked at sort of the positives and negatives of that video consultation, I want you to use it then to inform your actual consultation, which you do for the next stage. So it essentially allows you to develop your own guide, your own framework, which you think will work for your consultation that you do.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
On that as well, like it's when you watch a consultation, it can be quite interesting. Like that listening element is an interesting one, because you can sometimes get nutritionists or professionals who try and operate within their comfort zone a little bit more. So they might pick up on a particular answer that a client has given, and because they know a lot in that particular area, it might be a subspecialism in there that they then try and expand out in that particular area. So try and watch for things like that. I've never seen the videos that Sanjoy is referring to here, so I have no idea if that's the case. But listening to what the responses are and whether the consultant in the videos is actually picking up on all of the elements or the things that are important to the client could be a key one as well. What things to avoid? What should we not be doing in this particular section?
I guess the key thing is look at details, and think of the details and not just roughly go over things. So if you think even little body language movements weren't ideal, highlight them and address them rather than just ignoring them. So these are little details, but then also thinking about the bigger picture. Are they achieving what they want from that consultation? What were their goals and what did they actually get out of it? And have a think of that. So think small, but then come back and come out of it and think, does it fit into the bigger picture? Are the key things that I think you about.
Excellent. Should we move it on?
Yeah, move it on.
Excellent.
So now coming to the main part of the actual assessment, which is your own consultation and a reflective summary of that consultation.
40%. High stakes.
High stakes involved here. Yes. So you'll be recording the video on Panopto. There's instructions on Blackboard on how you would do that. So you can do it from your own laptops. With this, I've already outlined that in previous years, so speaking to Claire, the mistakes that were made from this consultation was the consultation one was too long. Some people went on for like an hour. I've limited yours to 30 minutes for this one. If you go over by a few seconds, I'm not going to be that pedantic. It's fine. But around 30 minutes is sort of the cut. If anything beyond 31, 32 minutes, I'm not gonna then see and watch. So it's up to you to sort of structure the session within that time frame. So using the second step of critiquing the consultation, designing what you think the framework should be to fit within that 30 minutes. And that also fits into real life. We had Wendy come to speak yesterday, and she mentioned that she had 75 athletes with GB Road, and 60 athletes, and she works 75 days a week. The likelihood of her giving each person more than, even 30 minutes is probably very slim. So in the real world, when you're out there, you won't get this pleasure of being able to sit with them and chat to them for extended periods of time. So that time management aspect is a good skill to develop, and that will form part of the marks that you'd get as part of this consultation.
Sorry, you're in mid-flow, and
go for it.
That, again, being concise and ensuring that you're not saturating the client as well.
Mm-hmm.
You, as a nutritionist, you think you're going to change the world with this person, and the reality of the matter is that they might take away one or two key points from your consultants, like the consultancy that you do. So again, as Sanjoy has highlighted there, that just got to be sensible, pragmatic, and concise with your scheduling. As you were, sorry.
It's all right. Don't worry. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the word professionalism within the rubric as well. Now, professionalism means different things to different people. A lot of people, when they think professionalism, might think Canary Wharf bankers and they're in suits and all that sort of stuff. That's not really what I'm after with professionalism. I want you to show your personality and be you, because you've got to develop a rapport. And so however which way you do that, that's fine. But you just got to, I guess, respect the boundaries of your client. You're talking about quite a sensitive topic in what is nutrition. What people eat is quite personal to them. So you've got to respect that. To be mindful of sort of the languages and phrases that you might use with different people. But you interpret professionalism based on what you, how it fits into your personality, rather than fitting this mold of being this office worker as being professionalism. So just be mindful of that. So I'm not expecting you to be all suited and booted. You dress for you dress for the scenario, and you act for that scenario, and bring your personality in there, because that's what's going to develop the rapport overall with a client, and that's more important than you being all like good posture, tie up and all that sort of stuff,
Sits up straight quickly. God, oh.
Yeah. So just bear that in mind when you're doing that. And the other aspect to that is applying reactively to the client's backgrounds and needs. That comes to the listening aspect as well. So while you'll have a framework there that you'll think, okay, this is the information that I want. These are the types of questions that I might ask. It's important not to be rigid. It's not an interview. It's not question answer. It's a conversation that you want. Okay. So if you hear a client say something that you think is important to address, or they want you to address, then acknowledge it. Maybe you don't have time within that 30 minutes to discuss it in detail, but you acknowledge it and say, okay, I hear what you're saying there. We can definitely have a think about that, and we can look into that in the future, or something like that, to acknowledge that you've heard what they've said, and you know it's important to them, but maybe it doesn't fit within that 30-minute period. So then you can say when you can sort of look into that for them at a later date. Okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Prioritizing information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So think about that bigger picture of what you kind of need. So then once you've done that, we go on to the reflection. Now I've given you some reflection models that you could use. By no means was it comprehensive. I have no preference on what model that you use to reflect upon. All I ask is that you justify why you're using that model in a few sentences, why you think it's appropriate for you. Reflection, again, is a very personal thing. So people reflect in different ways, and different models may appeal to you in different aspects. Okay. I think I had a question about someone asked me that they liked a model, but there were certain aspects from other models that they liked. Now I have no problem with you bringing in certain questions from other models as well, because you think that'll facilitate your reflection. But again, just justify it in a short paragraph to say, okay, I'm using this model, but I'm bringing these additional questions in, and state for what reason. Okay. So you've got some. So you're showing that you've got some thought behind it. Then within the reflection, there's an action planning stage, so linking it to your professional development. And I've mentioned it probably a million times in the last assessment. Think about the SMART principles when you're action planning. Make sure it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time framed. And that gives you a nice sort of way to develop that reflection and that action plan.
We've got a question.
Okay.
Antonia, just wondering, in terms of ethics, do we need them to sign a consent form before we do the consultation and submit that with the assignment?
Yeah, so I'd expect you to do some sort of consent form to say that they're willing to volunteer in this. Obviously, they're being recorded as well, so there is that element of within the consent form that you may have that they're okay to be recorded during your assessment.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm an ethics geek, I'm afraid. So what you also need to be very clear about here is that you are doing this as part of an assessment at university, because I know you will have approached the people that you're approaching to do these consultancies with that in mind, but it's not always immediately apparent to everyone. So just make sure that they know that they're being filmed, that they know that it's for an assessment for an MSc course at the University of Westminster, and then a basic consent form which acknowledges that they're happy to undertake that that particular consultancy and they understand the framework that it's being operated in. It should be sufficient. Do you want it as an appendices?
Yeah, that'd probably be a wise thing. Yeah, so
good evidence.
So you'll have your consultation forms on all the forms that you do for step 1. Within the appendix, what I'd like is those forms filled in by your client, and then you can show how you've used that information already to inform your actual step 3 of your consultation. So you've got that initial information as well.
I know you've got one slide left, I believe.
Right? Yeah, one slide left. Yeah.
If you have a question, now is the time to answer it. Ask it, and I will put it up like I've just done there, so everyone can see it, and we can get it answered as well. Next slide.
Yep, next slide.
Excellent.
And this one's to do with the presentation of your material. So we spoke about your consultation forms and the information, rationalizing that content, but what I want it to do is to look professional. So look like it is part of a business, your own consultation business, let's say, that you could use, that it is logical in its sequences, and there's no little typos and things like that, which would stand out because you don't want to give someone a consultation form and it's full of typos and it doesn't look like it's professional. So you're going to get some marks on that aspect of it as well. Also to be mindful, and this links to the previous section as well. When you're recording the actual consultation, make sure you position the camera in a good place where you can see sort of body language and of yourself and also the client as well. Because then I'll be able to evaluate on that as well. And that sort of comes up with in relation to the presentation of the material as well.
On that, sound is more important than visual, because if Sanjoy can't hear what you're saying, he can't assess what's being said.
True that.
So we have the privilege, the benefit here of we're in a sound treated room. We've got a nice fancy camera. We've got a nice fancy mic, and as such, that it keeps the quality high so that you guys will actually listen to what we're saying, because that's the goal here. But again, so when you do your consultancy, make sure you're not in a big echoey room, particularly if you're using your phone to do the recording. Do they have to video? Is body language and everything?
Yeah, so there's a video aspect to it.
That's fine. Yeah. So just be mindful of that. So smaller rooms that are not quite as echoey could be beneficial. So we can help you out with a room booking as well if you need it. So we have the metabolic kitchen on the 4th floor labs. We also have a small consultancy room up there that's not widely used. If you need a space, we can point you in the direction of Helen Lloyd, our laboratory manager, and she will be able to help you out, getting you an appropriate room to do the consultancy in. So if you are struggling, there is help there if you need it. There's some questions.
Yep.
So Antonio's come back and asked another one. Fantastic, thank you. Just to clarify, am I writing my own consent form? There is not an official form we need to be using.
Yeah, so you're writing your own consent form, and you've got to make sure you include the relevant information, the things that Mike highlighted, that are important when you're retaining consent from someone.
Common sense prevails, I think, with the consent form. So, like I say, we're giving you some insight there as to what you might want to include. I would say this is going to be different when you take consent to do research. So there will be a standardized consent form that we will let students have access to. But for this assessment, you're going to be doing your own. And it's slightly different. A consultancy is a one-to-one thing. You're not doing research on them as such, as in you're not trying to collect data to answer a more generic question or with a more generic application, if you like. You're also not providing them with an intervention here. You're simply just interviewing them to kind of make the differentiation there. But when we come to research, there's a standardized form that our ethics committee likes to use, but we'll deal with that in semester 2 when we're thinking about projects. Dakota, if my client doesn't want her face in frame, does it matter?
I'm more looking at what you're doing and your body language and your facial expressions. So not necessarily no. So if you want to cut her face out, then yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy for all of you to do that, because I'm marking you and your body language and the way you're reacting to the client.
A good way of doing that is to just have the camera set behind your participant's head.
Yeah.
So you see the back of their head, kind of like a classic BBC. That they didn't wish to disclose their their name and their face, and then you just see the back of your client's head, but we'd see your face, which would be the most important thing, because again, your client isn't being assessed, you are. So, Magdalena, where do we have to put signed consent form and the rest of the ethics? In appendices, at reflection, part of assessment, ?
If you put it in the appendix, then that'll be fine for me. So yeah, and so you have you'll have within the document, you will have part A, the actual forms, and then you rationalising it. No, so sorry, it's in part A, you'll have you rationalising it. Then within the appendix, you can have the forms that are filled out and you're referring back to them. Part B, there'll be your interpretation and critique of the actual video that you'll watch, the consultation you'll watch. Part C, you'll have the reflection and the write-up. So all the forms will go in the appendix, all filled out. I'll send an announcement out just to clarify that for everyone later today as well.
Dakota, thank you, is what she said there.
No problem.
Yeah, some advice on appendices. Label them. So appendices A, appendices B, appendices C can make a huge difference to whoever is marking your work or navigating your submission to actually know what the deal is. So if you had in part A, you had if you had in part A of the assessment, you had your forms which go alongside that as appendices A, and you made reference to that in text. See appendices A, then it's not ambiguous, and then when Sanjoy or whoever's marking your assessment comes to look at it, can go straight to the appendices, find section A of your appendices, and lo and behold, your 3-4 forms should be there. So be organised. Organisation goes a long way to helping someone go through your assessment. Let's go back to our other view. Now, I think Sanjoy is pretty much done with regards to help assessment on the assessment fee. Is there anything else you want to add?
In relation to the assessment?
Yeah.
Nothing else. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover at the moment. Like I said, the other thing is just be mindful of the person that you're using to do the consultation. I've said it a few times in the lectures. Try not to choose someone that you know really well, because it comes across in the video, and it can be a bit awkward putting on your whole professional sports nutrition face in front of someone that you know. Just be mindful of that. It's okay to choose someone you know, as long as you know that that person and you can be someone else within that situation, and it doesn't come across. So just be mindful of that. Ideally, you'd use someone you don't really know, but obviously you know of because you're asking them.
When you know the person really well, assumed knowledge can play a part. Like subconsciously, you know a lot about that person, and therefore you might not go into particular areas of the consultancy because in your mind you already know that, but it doesn't always come across in the consultancy. And there might be a bit of an underlying understanding there that that person doesn't do exercise at the weekend because they're doing something else or whatever. Like, I can't think of a specific example, but that's what you're picking up on, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like if you don't show it, then we don't know that you need to know that, and that's the
you don't know that we know that I know that they know.
It's all like mind-boggling.
Goodness me. If there aren't any other questions, which there hasn't been so far, I think we will allow Sanjoy to escape and continue his daily life.
Shall I tell you about next week?
Yes. Good shout. Yes. So Sanjoy is going to do a little bit of an update on what to expect on practitioner skills next week, and then he's going to disappear. So last chance to ask any questions if you've got any, but I will hand over to Sanjoy to talk about practitioner skills for next week.
Before I do, Wendy sent me an email earlier saying she really enjoyed doing the session yesterday and that you were a good bunch. So well done. You all really engaged with her. So Yeah, well done, everyone. Hopefully you found the session useful. She did ask if you've got any feedback about the session and how she might be able to improve it or things she did well.
Have you seen the feedback these guys give? They're brutal.
They're brutal.
Yeah.
She wanted all the feedback. So
be nice.
If
we want her back.
If you've got if you've got anything, email me across, or next week when you see me next Wednesday, just let me know. Because yeah, she was very. She asked me a few times, so she's very keen on some feedback from the session. Next week we've got another visiting lecturer. We've got Andy Burnham, who is the chief executive of SENRA,
chief operating officer
of SENRA.
I think he is. Yeah,
and he will come to talk to you about ethics and ethics within sports nutrition, and how SENRA have played a role in professionalizing our industry and what they're doing, and talk about sort of the boundaries, our scope of practice and the boundaries that we have, and what you do in different scenarios. So I think it'd be quite a useful session. He's got some case studies that he's going to present to you. So again, it'll be quite a practical session, and covering sort of the important legal aspects, which was touched upon throughout the module, that you'll have to do as a sports nutritionist to be professional, and also to cover your back in some instances, especially in relation to the doping things we spoke about a few weeks ago.
Like professional practice, and when you go into the big, wide, scary world, when you have a paying client in front of you, professional boundaries, and then operating in a way which ensures that you are insured, that you're safe, that if a claim was ever made against you, what to do, how SENA can help with that, how the BDA helps with stuff like that. So he is a key person who helps to put all of that regulation in place, so that when you become an associate member of the SENA register, that you are covered and you would have support from that body. So he's a great guy to have in. You will learn a lot from him. So yeah, excellent. Again, on that, the part-time, again, Andy Burnham doesn't come in every year. He came in 2 years ago. He didn't come in last year, and now he's coming this year. But what I would say is, if you are a part-time year 1 student, as in you're not enrolled on this module and you want to attend this session, that's fine. And now I know Sinead, who is the part-time year 1 rep, is going to come to this session.
Mm-hmm.
So just let Sanjoy know that you're coming, and then you can get you involved with the session. So feel free to come and say hello.
Yeah, I think this session will be recorded, even if you can't make it.
Yeah,
well, possibly. Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, no more questions have come through.
Okay,
so
great.
we thank you for joining us.
No problem.
And any more questions, ask Sanjoy during your sessions. But thank you very much. We're going to have a very short break while I get rid of Sanjoy and just readjust the cameras. And then we'll move on to the module updates. And then we've just the usual stream from there, guys. So give me about 30 seconds, a minute, and we'll go from there. See you shortly.
See you guys.
Huge thank you to Sanjoy there for coming in. I think you guys enjoy the module interviews from what I can gather. So we've had Claire, we've had Liza, now we've had Sanjoy coming in talking about the assessments. And again, just make sure you take the advice on board, like the session's recorded. So again, feel free to revisit it to make sure that you guys are all on the same page. And yeah, just again, plan ahead, make sure that you get your consultancy done early. So that you've got plenty of time to then work on the actual write-up of the assessment. So we're going to move on to the module updates. Excuse me. I have the chat still open in the background, or at least I did. I might have to just revisit that in a second. So if there are any other questions, if there are any other questions, please feel free to get in touch with me, and we can go from there. I've just adjusted my microphone as well, so if there are any problems, please do let me know. I'm just going to quickly open the chat as it is just disappeared from my screen. So just give me 1 second while I find it, so that I make sure we're not missing anything. Okay, we're back in business. I can see any questions coming through. Okay, let's move on to the module updates. Now, let's just go to this view. Here we go. So, research methods for health sciences 1. So, the week 10 lecture will be covered by Claire, and I believe there's going to be a condensing of some of the session so that we can try and get that missed session sorted out, so that we're not missing any content. We just pop me down a little bit so that we're not completely drowning out the thing. So week 10 will be covered by Claire. One of the key exercises due to be posted on Blackboard, so please start working on it. And Teddy's going to discuss the nature and content in detail, I assume, either on Blackboard or during the session. The Tuesday session will be running as usual in CLG 07. Now, I attended this session because I was teaching my module, my level 5 physiology module for the undergraduates, and there was one person there, and I feel like the one person should be acknowledged here. But Evie, thank you for turning up to that. She got her assessment, the portfolio submitted, and she came along to the Tuesday morning session, and she basically had a one-to-one stat session, which is great for Evie, but a representation of the fact that, you know, we want to see more people at those help sessions, particularly if the primary feedback for the course so far has been that you need more help on the stat session. So we putting the stat sessions on, but you guys need to attend it so you can at least get the most out of the sessions that we're giving you. So please do attend those if you feel like you are struggling. The other thing that Claire will be doing next week as well is that she will be covering the chi-squared test. With regards to the categorical data analysis, which will be useful for your coursework too. So again, Claire has given me some more specific updates with regards to what she's going to be covering. So I'm just going to cover that now. So Claire has indicated that she is given, she's added a couple of slides which are already accessible on Blackboard, which are going to help you with your coursework. But predominantly the session is there to help you interpret data as reported in papers. So when you pick up a research paper and it says we did the following assessment, we found these results, what do those results actually mean? So when you come to interpret the findings of a study, instead of relying on what the researcher is saying in the discussion about how they've changed their world, changed the world with this particular paper, you could be a little bit more critical about what exactly is being shared in that paper if you had a better understanding of the statistics undertaken. So take a look and go from there. So Claire has indicated here that you do not need to prepare anything, but she's asked if you can bring a hard copy specifically, of the tutorial notes with you. She's recommended a hard copy. I think it's so that you can navigate it more easily whilst you have any software open on your computer. So bring it along with you and just have it to hand. So part of this session, Claire's answers to the exercises that you will be doing will be revealed after the session, except for the worked examples, which you will do in real time in the session. So there's some top tips from Claire with regards to how you are going to best navigate that session next week. Let's move it on. Nutrition and performance with Jane. Once again, well done to continue developing your lab skills and good work on your ergogenic aids practical this week as well. Oh, nightmare. Let me just go back. Looking ahead to next week, you are going to have a chance to work with some of the data generated in your practical session. So I know some of the feedback for the module and the course overall was that you didn't necessarily have specific access to some of that data. This will be a nice opportunity for you to get your hands back on that data set, but I still plan to speak with Jane just to make sure you guys have got access to that data moving forwards. And then thinking ahead to practitioner skills, to assessment of health and fitness in semester 2, you will also have opportunities to be collecting more data. I'm just going to double check that you have a clear pathway as to know what it is you're going to be doing with that data set once you've got it. So you'll have this will give you an additional opportunity to use SPSS. Obviously, the session's being led by Claire as well, so she will give you a different view on how to use SPSS for addressing some of these issues, which always helps, actually. Once you've had a session with Teddy, if someone does it in a slightly different way or gives you a little hints and tips here and there, it can actually be really useful. So get yourself across to that session and get involved. The lecture part of the session will be taken by Helen Money, who is a Westminster alumni. She did the undergraduate course here, I believe, and she now runs her own successful nutrition practice. So she'll be delivering a session on athletes with special needs, such as vegetarians and vegan athletes, and understanding what that means, and also adolescent athletes as well. So those who are likely needing and requiring the consent of their parents in order to undertake the assessment with you. So how could you best navigate that kind of environment? Moving it on to concepts and principles. Claire always gives me loads of stuff for concepts and principles, so we'll try and rattle through this now that we've got it in front of us. I'm a little bit conscious that you guys can't hear me, so if someone on the chat can just tell me whether it's clear and loud enough, I would be appreciated. There's some of my monitoring down here suggests that it might not be. I will continue regardless. She said, congratulations for submitting your essays, which is great. Little bit of confusion for some students about this issue around the 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. submission. We'd already, for the SEN guys, we'd already spoken, as you know, about the extension to 1 p.m. So the university policy is that you have 1 p.m. on the day of submission to submit. I believe on the Blackboard site it said 10 a.m. and I think the Turnitin also said 10 a.m. However, the registry being notified. Thank you for the feedback, guys, on the sound. That's excellent. But registry have been notified. So if you were one of those 8 people who submitted between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., you will not be penalised at all. It's already been addressed. Now, a question that came up last week when we did the mid-semester feedback stuff, I think Ted asked whether it would be possible to find out who was marking which question. So I posed this to Claire as the module leader, and essentially, and I agree with her here, that it doesn't really matter who's marking your essays, as we are all using the same marking instructions, we're using the same rubrics. And again, Claire will be taking 20% of all of the submitted marks, and she will be selecting them across the different topics, and therefore across the different staff members who will be marking, just to ensure that there's a consistency between the markers and topics chosen. Now, as such, there isn't one person who will be doing one particular topic, which adds confusion when I tell you who's doing which topic, because I might tell you that 3 members of staff are doing topic X, for example, which is a very real possibility because of the way that the submissions have been skewed, as in more people have submitted some answers in some others. So Claire is not going to share who's marking which questions. She gave some information about Rumi's helping Sanjoy, and Liza will be helping with EHAB. But other than that, there is no specific information coming from Claire with regards to which staff are going to be marking which topics. Today, in today's Concepts and Principles session, you'll be looking at the requirements in digestion, absorption, metabolism beyond nutrients to consider some health-based scenarios. So Teddy is going to start by focusing on some deficiencies, and then Jessica will introduce various scenarios based around calcium and vitamin D, and discussing vitamin D with more than just bone health in mind. Moving it on, I'm not sure if there's a bit more on concepts here or not. Yep, okay. Again, on the chat, if people could let me know, it's actually quite useful because I don't know this. But I mentioned last week during the stream that Claire was going to take the opportunity to put together some practice questions. Can someone just let me know if that's happened? But she has indicated here that Claire's extracted a list of questions from her week 2 lecture, which is quite key to your in-class test stuff. And she's put this list up so you can start your studies and start preparing for your in-class test now. She's emphasized here that she's very keen for you to reflect on the work that you've done and the content detail in the study guide for the in-class test stuff. So in the assessment, the coursework 2 folder and week 10 study materials folder, take a look in there. You'll find some interesting stuff. And she's highlighted that Claire's going to be available at the session. I'm going to assume she means today, but I'm not sure. So that she can answer any questions, extend your awareness of the expectations with regards to the in-class test next week. Now, I would say the best way for you to prepare for this exam or the in-class test is just simply by being very passionate about the subjects. If you have read the lecture materials, you've done the extended reading, and you have basically engrossed yourself within concepts and principles, and you will do well on the in-class test. So that's the best way. Engross yourself in the materials that have been provided. Don't be afraid to do some extended reading because it'll help you to draw different ideas and concepts together, so that you can then do well on the in-class test. The in-class test is a means of testing your wider knowledge. If your knowledge is wide, you're going to do all right. So there needs to be no stress with regards to the in-class test. You just need to be well prepared. And the fact that you're doing an MSc would suggest that you have demonstrated in the past that you are able to prepare for such assessments. So prepare well and you'll do well. Let's move it on. Whoa! Guys, there's an exclusive. Now, some of you might be able to look behind the exclusive label there and see what's going on, but this is a development as a result of the conversation we had last week with Ted and Evie with regards to getting a central session together. So I'm going to make it full screen. This is going to blow your minds. And again, feedback in the chat is welcome, just so I know who's there and what you think. But we've got an exclusive. I'm going to reveal it now. We've got SEN Salad Wednesdays coming your way. What the hell is SEN Salad Wednesdays? There was some discussion across the full-time course reps and also the part-time year 2 course reps is that you guys are all in on a Wednesday because you will have practitioner skills for sports nutritionists with Sanjoy in the afternoon. But that there's no, and you also have research methods for health sciences 1 and subsequently 2 in semester 2. But there's no kind of place for you guys to hang out. So we're going to change that. We're going to do something about that. So we're going to have the Nutrition Foundation live stream. Now that's been organized and I'm going to talk about that in a second, but we're going to try and make it a Wednesday thing. Now, it's not going to be like Pat's. It's not going to be a structured session. There's not going to be any PowerPoint involved. None of that. It's just going to be a shared room where everyone can come, bring your lunch, and you can chat to your peers. And there'll be maybe a member of staff having their lunch who wants a bit of a break as well. So yeah, SEN Salad Wednesdays. What do we think? I was going to go with sandwich, but then I realized that, some of you might be on a gluten-free diet. Some of you might be ketogenic and avoiding bread, full stop. Whatever. But salads, you can't go wrong. So let me know what you think. I'm thinking, and I need some feedback on this, that it's going to be the same room as to what you do practitioner skills for sports nutritionists in. but let me know. If you want it to be a different room, it's a bit bigger, a bit open, whatever, insert feedback here. But that's the plan. SEN Salad Wednesdays. Informal, bring your lunch, opportunity for you to just chill out with your peers, and just find out. Just to be clear, all right, global public health nutritionists, they're not allowed. They're not allowed. They're going to be rejected at the door. Ted, I'm gonna pop this on the screen here so everyone. In fact, I have a specific dedicated thing for this, and I don't use them. Let's have a look at the feedback. Magdalena, the voices. That sounds fantastic! Exclamation mark. Ted Roundtree, that room's good, excellent. Ted, I hope you're gonna work on that writing style for your essay submissions. My word. But good. I'm glad the feedback is positive from the 2 people that have replied. But I think it will help get a bit of a group mentality going on, and have a bit more of an informal way of you guys sharing ideas about dissertation topics, about how you might answer a question, about how you've approached an assessment, and just getting involved with the group, the room as a whole. So good. I'm glad it's taken on board, and you guys are going to benefit from it. Let's move it on. Okay, as I've just mentioned, the British Nutrition Foundation. Now, I've booked C205, which is the same room as your practitioner skills for sports nutritionists, so that we can watch the free webinar, and then when 2 o'clock comes, you'll be in the right place at the right time to undertake your next session. I suspect this will maybe run on by 5 minutes or so. So at least you're going to be in the right place at the right time. Again, let me know on the chat as to whether you think that room is going to be a good room. I think, Ted, that's what you meant, isn't it, Ted? That room's good. C205. So apologies for ribbing you there. But if there's any thoughts on that, you can either tell me now in the chat, or you can leave a comment on the video afterwards if you're watching after the live stream. That's absolutely fine. I get a notification when I get those comments in, so please do make use of them. Let's move it on. I believe we're on to Tweet of the Week, but I'm not sure. Yes, here we are. Okay. Now, Tweet of the Week is kind of linked to the paper that I wanted to discuss today as well. So we have Akivino at Akivino1. Now, I wasn't sure who this was or what it was. I clicked on it, and it seemed to be an American-based company who is claiming to join sports scientists and sport and exercise nutritionists, professionals, with companies, with the people that need to use those. And they tweeted out this, and I saw it, and I picked up on the names. Louise Burke and John Hawley, husband and wife combination, have published an excellent paper in the top journal, Science. Every nutritionist has to read it. And I thought, well, I know some nutritionists who might want to read it, so let's have a look at it now. Excuse me. Okay. Let's just before we do that, this is I like to credit those that have done stuff. So this is Time for a Breakthrough. Allows you to find and connect with professionals in your city all over the world. Specialized help for coaches, etc. So not sure if it's any good, guys. This is where I saw the tweet. So check it out if you are interested. But let's just scroll down to the original post. And let's have a look at the reference here. Now, I started to skim read this on the train home last night and this morning on the way in, and it seems like a quality piece of work. So particularly leading into advanced performance nutrition, looking at how athletes, coaches, and federations, if you like, are using this information to help optimize their nutrition for improving and enhancing top-end performance. So there's lots of tasty stuff in here. It's quite long. Solving the fuel crisis. If we keep going down, training, nutrition, a balancing act. So this will be stuff about fuel for the work required and the adaptation that you would expect from undertaking training in a fasted versus fed state. Whether you do, this is glycogen content clearly, and cycling that and cycling it at different times. So a lot of work on that. When less is more, the application of molecular biotechniques to exercise sciences, identify complexity and breadth of interest. It's getting complex. We're going to move it on. Fighting fatigue, eating to win. Moreover, muscle. The brain's the boss. So this idea of black box regulation, performance in a bottle. So loads of stuff in there. This is a rainy Sunday afternoon read. You will find lots and lots and lots of inspiring sport and exercise nutrition work in this paper. It's referenced out of its eyeballs as well, and as it should be for a science paper. Science is pretty much the ceiling, if you like, for sport and exercise nutrition research, I would say. I'm astounded they've got it in here, is what I would put on that front, but never mind. But yeah, check out this if you're looking for inspiration for what research you might want to do for your dissertation, things like that. Check out this particular update from Louise Burr. It came out on the 16th of November. Don't say we're not being current, because it doesn't get much more current than that. So check it out. Has anyone read it? Has anyone come across this? If you have, mention it in the chat. I'll put it up and we'll have a chat about it. But that's the tweet of the week this week, guys. Go and have a look and see what you think. Moving it on. Okay, I've given a specific section here for chat. Now, I know you've had some interaction with Sanjoy, and the stream this week is much longer because we've still got 20 minutes worth of interview to show if you want to watch it. But I've just opened it up to the chat. So is there any questions, concerns, queries that anyone has with regards to the course and what's going on? I'd be happy to announce that. Now, one thing whilst I'm waiting for any questions to be submitted here is a little bit of an update with regards to research areas from staff. So last week, or on Monday of this week, in fact, no, it wasn't. It was Thursday or Friday last week. I sent around a request to staff members, or specifically supervisors, to collect information with regards to their specific interest areas with regards to dissertation topics. Now, I've had one back from Dr. Bradley Elliott so far. I will be getting one back from Sanjoy. We were chatting about it yesterday. It's the stuff that you might covered. I'll have mine up there as well. I need to chase a few members of staff, but once I've got all of those submissions together, I will put them together in a PDF document, and then I will submit it onto the course sites for the part-time and the full-time students, so that you can start to get a bit of a feel for what the staff members are researching, the areas that they're particularly interested in, and what the areas that they want to pursue. So just a bit of an update with regards to the information there, with regards to research areas. So for those of you thinking, well, we've not found out anything yet, I'm on it. I'm waiting for staff to come back to me with their areas, and then once I've got them all together, I will publish them on the joint site. Now, I'm not being inundated with questions here, which is fine, not to worry. If anyone does have any questions, though, now would be the time to ask them. And if not, you can leave a comment on the video. And as you will see in the video that I'm about to share, so I did an interview with Francesca yesterday. She wasn't able to come in for the live stream today, but I've recorded a video which I'm going to play live on the stream now. I will be cruising about in the background while the video is playing in case anyone does have any questions. But we touch upon some developments that we're going to put onto the joint course site. So we're going to include a discussion board on there, which would allow students, you guys, to post questions that could be covered on the SEN stream ahead of the stream. So if I know that someone's got a particular question with regards to, I don't know, a module, an assessment, or they're a little bit uncertain about one particular thing, or they want some advice as to where to get some resources from, for example, then using the discussion board might be a good option for that. As I said, if you post a comment on the video, I see that. It sends me an email saying, Jeff has posted a comment on episode 10 of the SEN stream, and I tend to look at them and just see what's being said. Again, please like the videos as well. It'd be nice to see if people are enjoying the videos and getting some feedback there. So yeah, that's going to be the plan moving forward. So we've got a question. I thought we might have one. So Magdalena, is there any specific due date for closing our supervisor and topic for final project dissertation? We're going to be driving that, Magdalena, because ultimately you will be told who your dissertation supervisor is. The thing is that if we can align them, if we can align supervisors sooner rather than later to ensure that people are happy with who they've got, then that's what we're going to do. So once those dissertation research areas have been sent out, staff will then be happy to have a chat with you, have a coffee, have a sit down, and just find out what it is that you want to do on those projects, so that we can be a little bit more sensible about which supervisor is allocated to which student. For example, it would be pointless giving someone a supervisor who doesn't have an expertise in that particular area. So, for example, if someone wanted to do something on carbohydrate metabolism and performance, then it's probably going to be Sanjoy and myself rather than Rumi or Eddie, for example, who would best supervise those students. Similarly, if you were going to do a literature review, I may not be the best person to do that, but there's other members of staff who have better expertise in those areas. So it will be you will be told who your supervisor is. If it's very apparent and clear that there's an obvious swap between supervisors, that is an option, but it's not something I will be encouraging, and I would have to be convinced fairly strongly that there's a rationale for that. And also both students would have to be happy with that arrangement as well. So I hope that answers your question, Magdalena, but we've done this a number of years in a row now, so don't stress. You will know who your supervisor is, so that you can start having sensible, pragmatic conversations with regards to what your project's going to look like. If there aren't any other questions, I'm now just going to quickly pause the stream. Excellent. Thank you, Magdalena, for your feedback. It's good to know that the answer's gone down well. But I'm now going to pause the stream while I just load the video. As I say, I'll be floating around in the background, so if there are any questions that I could potentially answer at the end of this video, I will be able to jump on and just quickly do that. But otherwise, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch the stream. If you're watching afterwards, again, feel free to post any questions you have in the comments section. But other than that, I'm going to pause the video, and then I'm going to play the interview that I had with with Francesca. For the end of the thing. She comes up with some interesting points with regards to the feedback on the module, and she gives some interesting tips and advice to students who are in the first year, like full-time students or part-time year one students. So hang around, check it out. If you've got any questions, post them. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next week. Take it easy, guys. Guys, if you're still watching, I'm just having a bit of issue actually playing the video so that you guys can see it. So just bear with me. It will be about a minute or so while I get this figured out, and then it'll be on. Okay. Francesca, welcome to SEN Stream.
Thank you.
Are you comfortable?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's all nice and cozy here.
Cozy?
New studio.
This is our big studio. And look, we've got New Cavendish Street behind us. Amazing. So, Francesca has come here to talk to us about the feedback from the part-time Year 2 students. So Francesca's been with us for over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
How's it been?
It's been very stressful the first year, and this year it's very much that I kind of understand a lot how things are working, and I can really see also a lot of feedback that has been taken on from last year and put to use this year. So it's great. Yeah.
We're trying, is what I would say. So as you guys know, we did the mid-semester feedback, and I asked students if they were happy to do so, that they could try and separate out by their mode of attendance. So we're trying to make the feedback a little bit more specific to whether you're full-time, part-time Year 1, part-time Year 2. So Francesca's here to talk about the part-time Year 2 and to give a little bit of a summary of some of the feedback that's been received so that we can then take it forward. So why don't we start with, what are we doing well?
So part-time Year 2 students, we are all like in the SEN stream, because it gives us an opportunity to understand not only what's going on about the modules that we are doing, so practitioner skills and research methods, but about the overall, all the other modules that the other students are doing. So it's a little bit being part of the family again, in a way. And then other things that we're doing, that you're doing good, it's implementing the feedback as well. And then, for example, I had for practitioner skills, one of the students pointed out that it's very good to have a one-to-one session for the assignments, which is something that is happening in that module. So that's a very good point. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Just to manage expectations, as I said last week, for the larger modules where there's more of your students in it, like the joint modules like research methods for health sciences 1 and 2, for example, that one-to-one feedback can be tricky. But for the smaller SEN specific stuff, absolutely, yeah, we're going to try and continue that kind of support. But so good job, Sanjoy, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, I find it, because I went to one of these sessions as well, and it's really good because it just gives you even motivation just to start with the assignment.
Like a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good. Cool.
And things maybe that I mean, overall we're all happy and good. It's just a matter of course, making sure that we can manage to work and do our studies as well. But in terms of the things that we can you could improve is that there's still a problem in I think in research methods, having content beforehand. That would be something very helpful, and also in terms of having example of the assignments from last year or from previous years, just to have a good clear picture of what we have to do and we're expected to do in our assignments, and then on the dissertation to have all the other how can I say? What are the research interests of all the lecturers? But I think this is something that you are already
We're working on
covering.
it.
Yeah.
So, okay, yes. Again, thank you for the feedback. I know Sanjoy has provided you with some examples of the portfolios that were presented, and again, the only thing to consider is whether the assessment is the same this year as it was last year. And I know some have been tweaked, and as such, to provide an example of a previous assessment that's somewhat different to what you think is a consideration. But I'm only saying that because I'm not sure how many have changed significantly. So what I can do is take it back to the module leaders, just sort of say some of the feedback, because this is, I think the full-time guides said the same, that the almost allows you to kind of gauge what level you need to be pitching your work at. And I'm a big fan as well. Like it really allows you to like form this kind of internal strategy that you might want to take towards your assessment, and then build on it rather than kind of stressing out as to, you know, what should it look like, what should the structure be like. If you've got a good level to set at, then you can go from there.
Also for time management, because sometimes maybe you find, at least I can speak for myself, but I find myself spending a lot of time of thinking how to do it and if it's the right way that I'm doing it, and then actually start. Whereas if we know it from the beginning, that makes things much easier.
Okay, good. Let me take that away. It's part of the full-time feedback as well, that we'll speak to the module leaders and see which assessments we can put out some good examples, maybe a range of different examples as well, depending on what people's aspirations are for their marks and such like. But that's something we can definitely work on. With the dissertations as well, I'm hoping, so we get, last year it was the first time that we managed to get hard copy submissions done. And as such, students were asked to submit 2 hard copies. I'm fairly certain this is going to happen this year as well, but it will be confirmed next semester when you start thinking about your dissertation. So that is not an exclusive, because I don't know. So just bear with me. But it means the students who submitted them last year get one of those copies back, and we retain a hard copy here as well. And as such, I don't see any reason why we can't have a bit of a session where if we're all in the same room at the same time, that those dissertations are present in the room, and you kind of get a bit of a feel for, you know, how big they are, what's the density like, what's the topics that were done last year. So I don't see any reason for that. The only thing I would say with that is you couldn't be taking photographs of the work and stuff like that, because it'll have the written comments on, and you absolutely wouldn't be able to take them away with you. So it could be a key session where we could have, you know, an hour put to one side, maybe over a lunchtime on a Wednesday, perhaps. I don't know.
Maybe even different types of dissertation. There was in the feedback from part-time year 2 also, if it's possible to have not only quantitative but also qualitative, and having just different examples, so then we can kind of decide which path to follow.
Okay, cool. I have about 20 dissertations, so there's a few to choose from, I would say. So leave it with me. Okay. But that's good. Again, I get the whole dissertation anxiety, if you like, not quite knowing what it's going to be like and stuff. And I think we can do some really pragmatic things. You guys are on the. Before we continue on, before you tell us what other rubbish jobs we do,
so much.
Thanks. We're gonna stop it there, guys. Just I'm hoping to build on this Wednesday session. To take the opportunity to have a central session where on a Wednesday I think most people are in, so part-time year 2s and full-times definitely. Off the top of my head, I don't think part-time year 1 are. Again, I don't know it all, can't remember everything, but that Wednesday session where we're doing the British Nutrition Foundation, I think could be a nice little springboard to try and establish this type of framework, whereby just a room where everyone can get their lunch in, bring it back to the room, and something else might be going on, but it not in a pat session, so not like a structured session, just an opportunity for you guys to all get into the same room, discuss ideas, share ideas about research, about different assessments that you're doing. And if we had a member of staff in the room as well, and if there's any queries, but I'd like to keep it super informal, because otherwise it just becomes another teaching session and becomes boring and dull. Not that all our teaching and sessions are boring and dull, but
maybe people won't feel like coming into the session, but instead if it's formal, then it's much easier.
Yeah, exactly.
And still on that side of getting all together, that would be good if last year we had the discussion board on Blackboard, just to discuss about different topics or question that comes up, and maybe on the SEN stream, some people can watch it live and can put questions in there. So if we have this discussion board again, we can raise questions, or I don't know, share things as well, even if people can find good, I don't know, an interesting research or an interesting, I don't know, another seminar that we can go all together. That would be really good. And networking, I think, is very important.
Yeah.
Because we're all trying to become sport nutritionists. So if we grow together, I don't know, it's good.
That's not a nice message. If we grow together, I have been thinking about this, almost like a format for raising questions before censoring, because I don't see the viewers, the numbers, because my computer can't deal with streaming it and watching it, and I can't watch it whilst I'm streaming, so I don't ever know how many people are watching, which is why I'm very keen on the chat to try and see who's out there. But having that discussion board on the course sites, for example, could be a nice way of ensuring. Now, the only issue with that I've just thought of now is only so part-time students, year 1 and 2, have your own course site. So there's only really 8 students in that group. So I'm just wondering what we could do about that. Yeah, there's some technical considerations there, but it's not to say we couldn't have a part-time year 1, year 2 board. But I know you guys are talking to each other outwards of the class anyway, like that. Whereas seeing if we can get a joint board for, like, because you guys are integrated with the full-time student people, leave it with me, is what I would say, and we can see if we can do something sensible, pragmatic, so that we have this kind of central. That's a good idea. I like it.
And another thing maybe that I wanted to talk about is just thinking about next semester. The full-time and the part-time year 1, they're going to have advanced performance nutrition. And I'm not sure if are you going to have the external lecturers coming.
Yes.
It would be good if we can have the slides, or at least.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure if they're going to be the same of last year or new one. And if they're new.
The likelihood is they will largely be the same.
Okay.
There might be 1 or 2 exceptions, but we can deal with those on a case-by-case basis. So I'm expecting people like Glenn, Lindsay, Sam to all come back again, because I like the content that they provide, and they provide an expertise which is far beyond what I could manage myself. The exception, I'm going to try and get Stuart Galloway, so Dr. Stuart Galloway. He's the chair of the board of the Senate Register. He's a reader up at the University of Stirling and was my supervisor. So it would be nice to get him back. You guys didn't get exposed to this. He came 2 years ago, talked about fish oils and their effects on performance and health, whereas last year he was unavailable. So this time I'm hopefully going to try and get him in. And if, as such, you guys are welcome to join. If I know for the part-time year 2s that may not be an option if you're working and such like. And if we can share the Panopto content or the slides from that.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
And I think last thing I wanted to talk about is regarding the PAT session for research methods. Of course, we can come, like, for part-time year 2 students, we're not coming on a Tuesday. We can't attend those sessions. It would be good just to have the an extra sessions on Wednesday morning.
Okay. Just so I'm crystal clear here.
Yeah.
PATS is one thing, and then the research method tutorials are a different thing. So
okay.
Are you talking about both, or are you talking about the tutorials offered by Teddy on a Wednesday?
Sorry, the tutorial. Yeah.
So, that's fine. Again, I believe that's the plan moving forward. There may be some hiccups along the way as we get that moving, which, again, we can talk to module leaders and staff who will be running those sessions to make sure that we're all on board. But yes, certainly, it makes sense particularly because you have some additional students who are not on nutrition pathways specifically who would benefit from a Wednesday morning session as well. So again, I'll take that back and make sure that it's followed up with. So.
Perfect.
Excellent.
I think that's all. We're just in 4 students anyway, so
Yeah, 4 students is making a lot of noise.
yeah.
What? More feedback than the full-time lot. 18 of you. I'm kidding. All is welcome. I think there's a lot of alignment between the part-time year 2s and the full-time, simply because, you know, the full-time guys are kind of on this accelerated stress pathway to dissertation, whereas you guys have just had a slow-burning stress for a good amount of time now, but your needs are fairly similar, and therefore we can go. So thank you for sharing that. I have a question for you now. So you guys have got the inspiration and the knowledge and the experience, if you like, of being year 2 students. So what would you say to your year 1 counterparts who are just starting their adventure into part-time study?
I can say, just make the best out of it, and I really think you should try to build a lot of friendship with your colleagues as well, because that makes things easier, and just speak up, because that's something that, for example, last year I wasn't very much, like, I was just doing kind of my own job and doing whatever assignments I had to do and everything. But this year, even by being a rep, I think it's much more important whenever you get feedback, or like you talk to other people about what can be improved, or even about the assignments or whatever you need to do. Everything is so much easier. Yeah, planning. But I think you guys are much better than me on that, because you are full-time and you have to deal with all of these things. You're good on that. Yeah. Another thing before we finish that just came in my mind. Last SEN stream, you spoke about the Calmly writer.
Oh yeah.
So I've used it for my assessment of the portfolio, and it helped me a lot. So any other tips like that are really good, I think. Like this kind of more practical things.
That's the plan moving forward, is to try and identify these kind of extra little hints and tips that we can give and provide, which helps with sort of stuff. Like it's stuff that probably that your tutors are doing on a day-to-day basis, like the non-distracted writing type thing. Was just something that I was sat there using. I thought I'd expect this would be useful for the students, but making that link isn't always easy. It's just something that you're doing in the background, and you think, oh well, I'm sure other people are doing this, and it turns out they're not. But great to see that you were using it. It worked.
Because I mean, there are of course the library services and everything, but who has the time to go there and make an appointment? And whereas this is just a link, you can go and try this, and it's much easier.
Okay, cool. I think the next extra skill, if you like, or skilling up, we should brand this, is looking at social media platforms, and not just the obvious of these are this is Twitter, this is Instagram. Like I think we're all on that page now, but maybe moving it on and saying, okay, well, what does Twitter analytics look like, and how's the best way to use it? Or is there an automated platform whereby you could load up your content in the morning and then have it come out successively throughout the day without you having to do anything, for example? So using platforms like Buffer and TweetDeck and things like that, where if you're going to try and put a professional account together, maybe for your own consultancy or whatever it's going to be, that you don't have to be physically present there to try and continue the content that you're producing. And similarly, I'm going to do a PAT session, I believe, on using this software here. So they're using OBS and creating an online streaming platform. So some of you will be familiar with that. I know I talked to some of the full-time lads about Twitch and things like that. So, but hopefully those things would find it. No, it's okay. I didn't know about it until like a few months ago either. And that's what this came from. That's where SenStream was born, which is, you know, it's a weird one. I'll talk about it at a different time. I want to keep you all in suspense. Otherwise we'll just ruin it all. But,
okay.
but no, good to see that that's helped and that you want a bit more. So
great.
cool.
See you on Wednesday.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming in, sharing your feedback. And if you see Francesca around, say thank you, say hello, and then you may see some more of the full-time students on the Wednesday sessions once I get them organised. So, right, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will see you next week. All right, take it easy.
Did we cover?